Hi there, my name is Toby and today I want to talk about life. What is life? If you look at the universe, the vast majority of matter in the universe is inanimate. There's only a tiny amount of animated living matter in the universe, if you think about it. Even on this planet Earth, plenty of life, but far more inanimate matter than animated matter. So there's not much of it. That's the first thing. Now, the second thing is, the materialist will have us believe that life just sort of arises naturally. Things get together and somehow become life. Yeah, now if you look at inanimate matter, it's only governed by, I would say it's only governed by one force. But let's just say modern science says there's four fundamental forces. Let's just go with that for now. So inanimate matter is only governed by gravity, magnetism, and then there's the weak and the strong nuclear forces. So that's the only forces that will act upon inanimate matter. So that means if you're going to say, the materialist is going to say, well, life emerges naturally. Well, the only forces that can manifest life are going to be one of these four forces. So any one of these four forces, well, they say are four, I say is one. If you go with me, there's only one force, which I would say is magnetism. But you could also call it gravity. I've talked about this before. Gravity and magnetism are the same thing. All forces can be derived from one force. So let's just say there's only one force, magnetism. So inanimate matter will only get together based on magnetism. That's it. So somehow, with only magnetism, it manages to organize itself into life. Think about it. Is that possible? Does that sound possible to you? Now, life is based on DNA. The minimum requirement for any living thing is DNA, and all life is built upon this. It all requires DNA. DNA in itself is an organized structure of matter. And that is already so complicated. It's so complex. The geometry is so incredible, the proportionality, the shape of it. There's the golden ratio in there. There's some very incredible geometry going on in DNA. So are we led to believe that inanimate matter, just by the force of magnetism, or if you like, gravity, magnetism, the strong and the weak nuclear force, only those four forces, because that's all there is, matter interacts to organize itself into DNA. Okay, now there are mathematicians that have done calculations as to the probability of complex life just emerging. And they all say that the figures are ridiculous. There is no probability for this ever happening. We're talking going towards infinite numbers. But even let's just say that, okay, fair enough, somehow magnetism and inanimate matter and magnetism somehow organizes itself into DNA. Let's just say that. Now the trouble is, okay, let's go back a step. The trouble is, in the universe, there is entropy. Now everyone can see this, we can't deny that. In fact, the entire manifest universe is entropic. Now, entropy means everything is gradually decaying, crumbling into its lower state of energy. Everything is returning back to rest. Everything ultimately crumbles into dust. All ordered systems eventually crumble into disordered systems. Everything just amalgamates, evens out into homeostasis. That's entropy. So that is in itself a force. If you think about it, everything is subject to entropy. So there is a force going on already, entropy. Now, if you've got inanimate matter and magnetism trying to organize itself, you've also got entropy. So not only has it got to organize itself by some miraculous chance, it also has to battle against entropy. Entropy is always going to knock something out of order. Remember, there's no life yet, just inanimate matter. Bits of dust, stone, things, minerals floating in the ocean. If that's all there is, That's all there is. Somehow that has got to formulate into DNA and then into life. So, and remember, the materialist says that has to be the case if life emerges from matter, because that's what the materialist says. There is only matter and life emerges from that. The brain somehow forms, and because there's a brain, now we have life. No, you've got to go back. There's DNA. Remember, how can this complex thing form when you've only got inanimate matter and magnetism? Cannot be. Plus, you've got entropy. So I put it to you, the only solution is there's a counterforce to entropy. You see, if entropy exists, look at it this way. Entropy is the movement of ordered systems into disordered systems. Order into chaos. But there must be order. For there to be entropy, there must be ordered systems for them to crumble into disorder. So already we have to say, if there's entropy, there must be another force, an organizational force, a negative entropy force, or a negentropic force. There must be one if there's entropy. But that's now mysterious. That's mysterious. Because what I'm saying to you is that life is this organizational force. There is something else that will organize matter. Now, it will use magnetism. It will use, if you want, all these four forces: magnetism, gravity, the weak and the strong nuclear force, because that's the only manifest force we've got. So, but this mysterious force, a life force, will use that force. Plus, it will use particles, inanimate matter, and it will organize them together to create DNA. Now, don't forget, DNA, not only have you got to create this structure, but DNA must be suspended in water. You can't have dried out DNA, it must be in water. So not only has these, again, like the materialists will say, inanimate matter, just with magnetism, has to organize into DNA. That has to all happen inside water. And there must be other factors. You must have radiant energy, must also be there, because this DNA needs power. It self-replicates, but in order to self-replicate, it needs some energy. So DNA itself is an energy receiver. It needs energy to self-replicate. So you've designed a structure that can receive energy and it can self-replicate, always changing. DNA is always changing, just a little bit. That's growth. Again, you might say that's evolution. It's not evolution, it's not mutation. It's gradual changes in the DNA. Again, governed by the life force, this mysterious organizational force. A mysterious force that organizes matter. And once it organizes matter, it animates matter. It's the force of animation, the life force. Now, I call that consciousness. Consciousness itself. Now, life is undoubtedly complicated, very complex. And this is, again, a further proof to this. You see, inanimate matter is very simple. It does not do much. Like I said, vast majority of the universe is inanimate matter, and it's not really doing anything. It's just spinning around, doing this, forming into piles of rock or whatever it does. It doesn't do much. It doesn't start organizing and creating life here and there. There's something else going on. If you look at inanimate matter, the most organized it gets is this: crystals. These are self-organized atoms, crystals. But interestingly enough, this is still entropy, because the atoms in these crystals have decayed to their lowest state of energy. They're locked now in this crystal. This crystal will not decay any further. It will be like this forevermore, unless I crush it or heat it up. But left like that, these crystals will be the same in 1,000,000 years. They have reached their lowest state of entropy. Interestingly, that is also a state of perfect order. The atoms are in alignment. But that is it. Inanimate matter, the most it will do is organize into a crystal. But animated matter, there's so many layers of complexity to the human body, for example, and I believe there are trillions of layers of complexity. So many things going on, it's impossible for us to see them all, work them all out. So there has to be a force organizing all of this. There simply has to be one. It's the only logical solution because, like I said, the materialistic idea, life emerging from inanimate matter just by chance, is just totally impossible. Because inanimate matter with only magnetism is not going to do much. Plus, you've got entropy. Entropy is always knocking it down, knocking it down. It's not growing it up. It's not organizing things. Like I said, only crystals are the natural process of organization of matter. So there has to be this other force. And it's a mysterious force because you can't detect it. The only way you detect the life force is by detecting a life form. See, you can see the life force in this room. Well, there's none around here. It's in me. Here's me. I'm the animated object. I'm the life force. Now, saying that, I would still argue we need a science that explains everything. It explains matter and it explains life. That is the ether physics that I'm trying to explain on this channel. It's a total science. If you say that consciousness is this life force that is metaphysical, not physical, it's mysterious, you cannot detect it physically, but the physical universe is an effect of it, and living things are an effect of it. Now we're starting to get a whole science that explains everything. In other words, these inanimate matter, these inanimate objects, again, they're still just governed by magnetism, atoms and magnetism, but atoms and magnetism are still just consciousness. There's a certain amount of this consciousness here in this rock, but not much. This rock has got no self-awareness, but this rock is comprised of atoms, and atoms are comprised of energy. Energy is comprised of, well, let's just say electromagnetism, but electromagnetism comes from the ether, which is consciousness. So we can still go backwards. And I've explained it a lot on this channel here. But if we then say life is consciousness, it's the underlying field of everything. In this rock is still comprised of the same energy, but there's not much of it here. See, now my body is comprised of the same elements in this rock, but there's more. You see, every single element in the periodic table is inside the human body. Every single element. And there's probably some mysterious elements as well, very rare elements we haven't found yet. And they will be in the human body. So every element has got a tiny purpose. It's being organized together and it's being held in suspension in the right place. In this rock, there's no movement. It's all just static. Again, it's reached its lowest form of entropy. In the body, I'm fighting against entropy. The life force is continually organizing the matter in this body. I'm continually regrowing, regenerating. New cells are created every day. So this body is in a continuous process of organization. And that organization is the animating force. It's an organizational force, the life force, the negentropic force. Now when I die, that force is gone. The body is the same. The same elements are here. Everything is the same. But what happened? The consciousness has gone. Again, for the materialists, well, the brain is still there. The brain is still there. There's still blood in the body. What happened? Why is the blood not moving? Why has the heart stopped pumping? What happened? What's the difference? Some energy is missing. But what is that energy? Can't detect it. That energy is consciousness, metaphysical, not physical. But clearly it directly affects the physical. They interact. And again, the model that I'm trying to share here, ether physics, is the same energy. Consciousness, the spiritual energy, is the same underlying energy that creates everything. Now that energy will create an atom, and I've described that multiple times. Essentially, let's go back a step. The life force is the ether. The ether is this mysterious metaphysical energy. But the ether creates a disturbance. Once there's a disturbance is created in the ether, that disturbance is manifest. And we can see that as electromagnetism. There's some movement happening. Light. So this consciousness is in the ether. Consciousness creates a disturbance of the ether. That disturbance creates a manifestation, an energy, light. And light then is a frequency, it moves, and a particular frequency, that light will loop around, spinning around and become an atom. So an atom is a self-sustaining loop, a circle of light spinning around itself, a harmonic, a resonant frequency, a standing wave. But it's still light, a disturbance of the ether. Remember, consciousness disturbs the ether, or consciousness creates the disturbance of the ether. The disturbance of the ether is light. But now in an atom, it's trapped. It's trapped. It's a disturbance of the ether that has become trapped, spinning. And now that is self-sustaining, that becomes an atom. And now it's fixed. We've got atoms. But it's still, an atom comes from the same energy. Now you've got atoms, you still have got consciousness, you've still got energy, you've still got light. So consciousness still creates light, but light now can interact with atoms. And they appear to be different. This now appears to be different to light. Here's light. But the light coming out of here is the same as the light that is in these atoms. It's the same energy. And the light that is coming out of here is the same light that is coming out of my consciousness. But the light that is in consciousness is unmanifest. It is etheric. That is the prequel to light. That is the ether. But a powerful consciousness creates a disturbance. That disturbance becomes light. And light is a propagating disturbance through the ether, or of the ether. And that is life. Life is also light. But what is light? Light carries information. Again, light is various frequencies. And if you've got a changing frequency, what is a changing frequency? That is information. So in light, light is light, but all these different frequencies, changing variations in light, within that change of frequency is information. Now, if you think about it, light is the transmitter of information, but information is not physical. Information is abstract. That's metaphysics. Mathematics, it's numbers, but numbers are metaphysics. But light is a medium that allows the transmission of information, vibrations, frequencies. That is information. That information is consciousness. That is the metaphysics. So light, we are light, but more than just light, we are the information behind the light. Or we are the information that is transmitted by the light. And now if you understand consciousness is information, and information is transmitted through light, the DNA, again, is information. There's information required in the geometry to create DNA, and there's only one geometrical solution for life. There's only one DNA, or one particular geometry that we call DNA. There's some variations of it. But one particular geometry, again, based on the golden ratio. There's going to be this clever mathematics in here. And there's only one solution for life, which is DNA. It's incredible. It's so precise, the layers of mathematics required to build life. But the DNA can pick up information through light and self-replicate and make changes. How does it know what changes to make? The information is in the light, that the light hits the DNA and it picks up the modulation, the change in frequency, which is the information. So consciousness is information, and information is metaphysics. It is behind the light. And the information is behind the light, that is consciousness, that is the life force. So behind the physical light here, behind the physical light, there is a metaphysical light that is consciousness. But they are the same light. With enough consciousness, with enough concentration, I can visualize and create light. And I've already talked about this. There will be some experiments we can do to prove this. And I've already talked about it as well. The Tibetan yogis are proven to do this. They create heat in the body through meditation. It's been proven. It's very easy to see. And heat is light. Infrared light is heat. So it's proven. We create light with consciousness in the body. Now, again, creating light outside the body is something different. But it's the same principle. Same principle. Consciousness comes before light. And consciousness is life. And the information for life comes through light. Frequencies. Changing frequencies is information. But remember, the DNA must be in water. And again, you need water for life. Now, water is inanimate, but water is incredible. They call it the universal solvent. But the water molecule, the structure, is a perfect geometry. Again, it's a perfect incommensurable geometry to do with the golden ratio. It's the 108, 36, 36 degree triangle, which is 115. The sides 115. So it's the golden ratio triangle. Very important in geometry, sacred geometry. But that's the water molecule. There's no accident. So water itself acts as a receiver and antenna for light. And it acts to suspend the DNA and provide electricity for the DNA and nutrients for the DNA. You need this medium of water for life. It's very interesting. Life needs a medium, water. But consciousness is also a medium, ether. It's a medium. There's energy everywhere. The ether, the life force. It's everywhere. And it's controlled directly by consciousness. The sooner we get this, the better. The sooner, that's why I try and talk about this scientifically. This is real stuff. The sooner we grasp there is really a force of consciousness. It really exists. Well, how do I get it? Well, think about it. I am consciousness. Oh, all right. That's it. You are consciousness. You are that force. You can create and control it by focusing your consciousness. That's why you meditate. That's why we meditate. That's why we exercise, do some training to build the force. See, we're all doing bodybuilding, fitness. Yeah, let's do energy building. Let's build our energy body. Let's build our chi. That's a whole nother level. A whole nother level. We could have Mr. Olympics with the chi. We got Mr. Olympics for the muscles. But people don't take it seriously. They still think, it's all nonsense, childish nonsense. It's like magic. Yeah, we don't believe in magic. We don't believe in energy. Well, you don't believe in consciousness. And I've already just gone through that discussion. If you believe the materialists that say life emerged just by chance from inanimate matter, you are the crazy naive one. There's no logical argument that can prove this. I dare any materialist to tell me that. Tell me what is life. If it emerged from inanimate matter, how? Tell me the steps. How did it emerge from inanimate matter? And inanimate matter is only governed by magnetism. Or if you want more, okay, you got some electricity, we got gravity, we got the strong and weak nuclear force. Yeah, but none of that is organisation. That won't organise things into structures. That won't get different elements together. That won't create any sort of biological material. Remember, there's no biology yet. There's only minerals, dust and water. How does that organise into DNA, let alone life? DNA itself is impossibly complex. to organise from inanimate matter with no organisational force, only magnetism. There's no magnetism that will piece together random things into DNA. Oh, there it is. No. There has to be a metaphysical element to this. There has to be information. There's a blueprint for the body. There is a plan. There is a blueprint of the DNA. Like I said, if you map out, draw the diagram of DNA, calculate the distances, you'll work out the geometry, the golden ratio, the sizes of it. That geometry is abstract mathematics. That's just in your head. But you need that plan. You need the geometry of the DNA before you can build a DNA. There's a plan for it. And the plan is in the ether. The plan is metaphysics. That's mathematics itself. And mathematics, mathematics has done the calculations. That's the only way I can describe it. Imagine mathematics has done all the calculations. All the formula is there. And the question is, what is the most efficient structure to create a self-replicating life form? And the answer, DNA. Here it is. That is the most efficient geometry structure based on material elements we've got to create a life form. Is there another one? No, that's the only one that will work. That's it. Mathematics has calculated it, therefore it exists. And the information is transmitted to it through light. But the information is the modulation, the change in frequency of the light, which comes from consciousness. If light is the disturbance of the ether, what creates the disturbance? Consciousness. Consciousness creates the disturbance in the ether. And the disturbance of the ether you can call electromagnetism. And I've talked about this already so much. If you go back and check out my whole ether physics lecture series, just look through it. You can look at any video, they're all independent. But if you go back to the very beginning, you can see it step by step. So I hope this made sense, and I hope it answered some questions. Please do leave me any comments or questions below, and I will get back to you. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in any of these other videos here.